professional sports has never been about friendship or loyalty. It's a brutal industry where competition, money, and influence decide everything. At the highest level, one measurement determines a player's true importance, their market value. In simple terms, every athlete is either the force generating revenue or someone benefiting from the success created by others. For more than 2 decades, the Women's National Basketball Association struggled to find a true financial engine. The league continued operating, but reports and discussions around the sport often highlighted how much support it received from the National Basketball Association to remain stable. Despite those challenges, many veteran stars carried themselves with the confidence and recognition of global icons. Then the landscape suddenly changed. When Caitlin Clark entered the professional spotlight, the attention surrounding women's basketball exploded almost instantly. Television ratings jumped, arenas began selling out, and millions of new fans started paying attention to a league they had rarely watched before. Clark's arrival didn't just create excitement, it introduced an entirely new level of commercial value to the sport. For the first time in years, the WNBA had a player capable of driving massive public interest. But the moment that should have united everyone instead sparked a complicated power struggle. The Women's National Basketball Players Association began pushing aggressively for major changes to the financial structure of the league. Their demands reportedly include higher maximum contracts, additional benefits like housing support, and a revenue-sharing model that would grant players a significantly larger portion of league income. Some union leaders believe the sudden rise in popularity gives them unprecedented leverage in negotiations with the billionaire ownership groups running the teams. And that's where the situation becomes volatile. Because some analysts argue that threatening a strike during a period of historic growth could put the entire momentum of women's basketball at risk. Instead of strengthening the league, critics warn it could disrupt the very progress that fans are celebrating. Meanwhile, the player at the center of all this attention has taken a completely different approach. Caitlin Clark has largely stayed out of the controversy. She hasn't publicly attacked other players, she hasn't engaged in online arguments, and she hasn't fueled the debate dominating headlines. Instead, she has continued doing the one thing that built her reputation in the first place, playing basketball at the highest level. Recently, Clark arrived at the training camp for USA Basketball, where the atmosphere surrounding her was noticeably different from the tension-dominating league discussions. On the international stage, the focus shifted back to competition, teamwork, and performance. Many observers believe this moment symbolized something much larger than just another training session. It highlighted the growing reality that Clark's influence now stretches far beyond one league. Her popularity is global. Her games attract millions of viewers. Her presence alone can transform ratings, ticket sales, and media attention overnight. And that reality has created a dramatic shift in leverage. Because the truth is simple, the WNBA benefits tremendously from Caitlin Clark's presence and the new audience she has brought to the sport. But Clark's rising global profile also proves that her career opportunities and influence are not limited to any single organization. Which leads to one unavoidable question hanging over the future of women's basketball. Is the league shaping the legacy of Caitlin Clark? Or is Caitlin Clark reshaping the future of the league itself? Right now, the answer is still unfolding. But one thing is clear, the business of sports is evolving quickly, and the balance of power inside women's basketball may never look the same again. And at the center of it all stands one player who changed the conversation forever. Caitlin Clark.
They're kind of doing some drills here. Let's see them cook up for a little bit. Chelsea, no look, Caitlin. Side dribble. Main thing is they're enjoying themselves, man. I love it. Okay, Angel to Stu, easy work. It seems like Caitlin is hanging with Kelsey a lot. Paige always yelling. Paige yelling about anything these days.
Listen to the sound coming from that gym. The laughter, the excitement, the energy. Look at the smiles on the players' faces. There's no tension, no bitterness, no corporate drama hanging over the moment. What you're watching is pure joy for the game of basketball. On that court, Caitlin Clark is running drills alongside Breanna Stewart and some of the brightest young stars in American basketball. They're joking with each other, competing, and shouting USA on 3 as the gym echoes with excitement. It's the atmosphere you expect when elite athletes are performing at the peak of their careers, professionals who genuinely love the sport they play. Now compare that scene with the atmosphere surrounding the ongoing dispute inside the Women's National Basketball Association. Instead of celebration and momentum, the headlines are dominated by conflict, arguments, and tension between players and league leadership. Critics argue that some union figures are framing the situation as a struggle against powerful ownership groups, hoping to gain public sympathy and media attention. The conversation has become filled with frustration, resentment, and constant talk about the possibility of a work stoppage. The environment has grown so intense that internal disagreements are reportedly spilling into the public, with leadership communications being discussed across major sports media outlets like ESPN. Instead of unity, the league's internal politics have become the center of the story. And then Caitlin Clark steps onto the court at the USA basketball training camp, and suddenly the tone shifts completely. There's no drama. No bitterness. Just basketball. By simply showing up and focusing on the game, Clark sends a powerful message without saying a single controversial word. Sponsors, television networks, and league owners watching from the outside see something very clear: a global star who brings excitement, positivity, and massive fan interest without the chaos surrounding league politics. While critics describe the union leadership as appearing disorganized and confrontational, Clark projects the image of a polished international superstar. To supporters, she represents the future of the sport, an athlete capable of expanding women's basketball into a truly global entertainment product. Some analysts argue that the tension surrounding the league isn't a permanent feature of women's basketball at all. Instead, they believe it's the result of a small group of voices trying to maintain influence during a period of massive change. For months, many believed that Clark's enormous popularity would inevitably pull her into the middle of the league's labor battle. The expectation was that her influence would become a bargaining tool in negotiations. But Clark chose a different path. Rather than joining the fight, she stepped onto the international stage, letting her performance and presence speak for themselves. To understand why this moment matters so much, you have to look at the economics of modern sports. In any major business negotiation, bluffing only works if both sides hold real leverage. If one side threatens to walk away but has nowhere else to go, that threat loses its power immediately. Some critics believe that certain veteran players overestimated their independent drawing power. They assumed fans were loyal to the league's established stars and would continue watching regardless of which players appeared on the court. But recent experiments in alternative basketball ventures have raised serious questions about that assumption. One example often discussed by analysts is the launch of the 3-on-3 league called Unrivaled. The project was created partly to demonstrate that established WNBA players could attract television audiences and generate revenue outside the traditional league structure. The results were far more complicated than many expected. Television ratings struggled early, and critics quickly noticed that the biggest name driving national attention, Caitlin Clark, was not involved in the project. For television partners such as TNT, the situation created uncertainty about whether the new venture could truly capture the massive audience Clark had recently brought to women's basketball. At the same time, injuries suffered by important players, including Aaliyah Boston, sparked concerns about the physical risks of participating in additional competitions outside the WNBA schedule. All of these developments have contributed to a growing realization inside the sports business world. Star power matters more than ever. And when the biggest star in the sport steps onto the floor, the reaction is immediate. The ratings climb. The crowds grow louder. The spotlight returns. Because when the true attraction of the moment arrives, the entire game changes. To the floor.
Mind you, look at the teams while y'all looking too. Look, Angel knocking them down, dog. I know it's quick. Caitlin with the game winner. Caitlin with the game winner, dog. Got the stun on him. Come on, man.
And then it happens. The ball swings to Caitlin Clark. The shot goes up. Game winner. That single moment explains everything. That is the product. That is the highlight that spreads across social media in seconds. That is the type of moment that convinces networks to invest billions into broadcasting women's basketball. Because when Clark delivers a shot like that, executives and owners watching from around the sports world don't just see a player making a basket. They see value. They see the kind of generational star who captures the attention of the entire sports economy. Across the league, powerful figures are watching closely: owners, executives, and decision-makers. Leaders connected to the WNBA like Adam Silver and Kathy Engelbert understand exactly what moments like this mean for the future of the league. To billionaires who run sports franchises, a viral highlight isn't just entertainment. It's market potential. And that reality changes the balance of power during negotiations. If the Women's National Basketball Players Association ever decided to move forward with a strike, many analysts believe the owners would not panic immediately. Their calculations are simple: protect the most valuable asset in the sport and build the future around that momentum. And right now, that momentum is centered around Caitlin Clark. If the season were ever delayed or disrupted, veteran players across the league would face enormous uncertainty. Contracts, salaries, and career momentum would all be placed at risk. Clark's situation, however, is very different. Her influence now stretches far beyond one league or one season. Her popularity has created opportunities in international competition, sponsorships, and global basketball events organized through groups like USA Basketball. Television partners such as TNT Sports are constantly looking for ways to broadcast events featuring the sport's biggest stars, because star power is what drives ratings. And in modern sports media, ratings drive everything. This is why many observers believe the current negotiations are so tense. Both sides understand that the sport is entering a new era, and everyone wants to secure their place in that future. But behind all the headlines, there is a deeper conversation taking place inside women's basketball. For decades, established veterans helped build the foundation of the league. They created the culture, fought for recognition, and carried the sport through years when mainstream attention was limited. Then a new generation arrived. Players like Caitlin Clark brought a wave of new fans who weren't necessarily familiar with the old traditions or the established hierarchy within the league. Suddenly, the spotlight grew brighter than ever before. Clark's record-breaking college career at Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball had already transformed the visibility of women's basketball. Her arrival in the WNBA accelerated that momentum dramatically. Major brands quickly recognized her influence. Companies like Nike and Gatorade invested in endorsement partnerships, understanding the enormous marketing power behind her popularity. That sudden rise changed the dynamics inside the sport. Some veterans welcomed the growth. Others questioned how quickly the spotlight shifted toward a single new star. And now the entire league stands at a crossroads. Because Caitlin Clark's first professional season already changed the conversation around women's basketball. The ratings surged. The arenas filled. The sport reached audiences it had never reached before. But many believe the biggest moment hasn't happened yet. Clark is still at the beginning of her professional career. If she returns fully healthy, fully adapted to the pace of the WNBA, and ready for her second season, the expectations will be enormous. Fans are already anticipating what comes next. More highlights. More packed arenas. More global attention. And if that momentum continues, the league could enter the most successful era in its history. Which makes the current conflict even more critical. Because the future of women's basketball is being shaped right now. And whether the league rises to that opportunity or struggles through internal conflict may determine the next decade of the sport. One thing, however, is becoming impossible to ignore. Without engaging in public arguments, without fueling controversy, Caitlin Clark has already made her position clear. She simply stepped onto the court, played the game she loves, and let the entire world watch. Sometimes the most powerful move isn't confrontation. Sometimes the most powerful move is letting your performance speak for itself.
It's special for you. man, I think, this is every kid's dream. I think I wrote it down when I was in like 3rd grade. So just excited about this opportunity. And I remember Kara Callan talking to us, like when me and Paige, and I know AB isn't here, but even I played with Ryan on the U19 team. Like on the junior national teams, there's only going to be like a couple of you that end up making it to make a senior debut. So whether that's the World Cup, whether the World Cup qualifier, whether that's, the Olympics, every single part of it and part of the journey is really special. So I know we're a ways away even from the World Cup and obviously a ways away from the Olympics, but this is still really exciting in itself and kind of the first.
Caitlin Clark hitting a game winner in a practice drill. That's it. That single moment is the entire business model. Not just a highlight. Not just a viral clip. But the engine behind a multi-billion-dollar sports economy. Because when Caitlin Clark pulls up from the logo, the internet explodes. Millions of views. Millions of fans. Millions of dollars. And right now, the people running the WNBA know something the public is only starting to realize. The league needs Caitlin Clark far more than Caitlin Clark needs the league. And that reality is about to collide with a potential WNBA strike that could change everything. Section 1, the billionaire calculation? Behind the scenes, the most powerful people in basketball are watching. Owners. Executives. Media networks. Billionaires like Joe Tsai and Matt Ishbia. League leaders like Adam Silver and Kathy Engelbert. And when they see Caitlin Clark drain a clutch shot, even in a Team USA practice, they are not just seeing a basketball play. They're doing math. Because they understand something simple. Caitlin Clark isn't just a player. She's market capitalization. She's television ratings. She's sold out arenas. She's global attention. She's the magnetic, generational talent capable of carrying the entire league into a new era. Section 2, the strike threat? But here's where things get explosive. The WNBA Players Association has reportedly been preparing for a possible strike. A massive showdown over money, power, and control. And if that strike actually happens, the veteran players think the owners will panic. That billionaires will fold. That the league will cave to their demands. But the owners may already know the brutal truth. The only asset they truly have to protect is Caitlin Clark. Section 3, the power shift. Here's the uncomfortable reality. If the WNBA season were delayed, or even cancelled, many veteran players would lose everything. Paychecks, visibility, endorsements, relevance. But Caitlin Clark? She loses almost nothing. Her brand is already global. Her fan base is already massive. Her endorsement deals already reach into the millions. If the WNBA disappears tomorrow, Clark's audience doesn't vanish. It simply follows her somewhere else. International basketball. Media appearances. Global events. Wherever she goes, the spotlight follows. Section 4, why this conflict is so intense. And that's why the tension inside the league is so explosive. Because for decades, the WNBA had a very different ecosystem. A smaller audience. A tight-knit veteran hierarchy. Established locker room rules. Then Caitlin Clark arrived from Iowa. And everything changed. She shattered viewership records. She brought in millions of new fans. Fans who didn't grow up watching the league. Fans who didn't care about the old rules or old hierarchies. And overnight, the entire landscape shifted. Section 5, the humble checkmate. But the most fascinating part? Caitlin Clark never attacked anyone. She never engaged in the drama. Instead, she did the exact opposite. When speaking publicly, she called the opportunity every kid's dream. She praised the journey. She showed respect to the game. She positioned herself as a student of basketball. Calm. Professional. Humble. And by doing that, she completely flipped the narrative. Because while others argue, Clark simply plays. and wins. Section 6, the global stage. Now she's stepping onto an even bigger stage. Team USA. International competition. A global television audience. Meaningful, high-stakes basketball watched by millions around the world. And suddenly the spotlight is even brighter. While the WNBA debates strikes and negotiations, Caitlin Clark is preparing to expand her brand globally. Section 7, the high-stakes gamble. So now the league faces a dangerous moment. The players' union is threatening to push the nuclear button. A strike. A shutdown. A financial standoff with billionaire owners. But the billionaires might not be looking at the union at all. They might be looking at Caitlin Clark, standing safely outside the chaos, ready to dominate the biggest stage in basketball. Final build-up. If the strike actually happens, the consequences could be massive. Fans could walk away. Momentum could disappear. The league's growth could stall overnight. And when everything settles, one reality may still remain unchanged. Caitlin Clark will still be the biggest draw in women's basketball. Outro, engagement. So now the question is yours. Is this WNBA conflict really about money? Or is it about power and the arrival of a generational superstar? Will the league find a deal? Or are we about to watch one of the most dramatic power struggles in sports unfold? Let me know in the comments. And if you want the real stories behind the business of sports, hit subscribe. Because the biggest battles in sports aren't always on the court. Sometimes they happen behind the scenes.